Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accounting professionals come to learn the most efficient and powerful ways to grow their accounting firms, sharpen their sales skills, and really have a path to creating consistent increased revenue. I cover topics from networking, pricing, ideal clients, how to handle objections, how to handle you're too expensive, and how to set boundaries with clients so you can stop giving away your time and expertise away for free and really start getting paid your value and your worth. You'll learn tips and strategies and also hear personal interviews from successful accounting professionals and others in the industry. This podcast will show you exactly how to create the firm and life of your dreams full of abundance. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. Our special guest also works with accountants and bookkeepers who want clients to be able to see their value, charge more for their services, but are typically struggling with their sales calls. So she also has a program called Sales Mastery. I know the difference is that it's an online e-course and it shows you how to become more consultative, so that you can become that go-to expert, get the right clients to say yes to you. And she spent the last 30 years in the sales trenches having over 20,000 sales calls. I think she might have even had more than me. And she knows typically exactly what works. So when it comes to showing your value versus talking about it, Debra is also a sales expert just like me. And she also coaches, and she's a profit-first professional and works with clients all over the country. But before we welcome Debra to the show, I have some very, very, very exciting news. So I've been working on the Abundant Accountant Sales app in the background for the last 6 months. If you are looking for a done-for-you way to build your firm faster with less volume and more high-paying clients, then this app will help you. If you do not have any follow-up system, follow-up email sequences, nada, I've got that covered because I've done it for you. And if you want to stop wasting hours of your day looking for new clients online and really just want a tool so you can reach out to the right ones and know that the follow-up sequence is in place, then this app has it done for you. To check it out, head on over to theabundantaccountant.com/app. That's APP. And you can try it for 2 weeks. You can give it a whirl for 2 weeks. The goal is to take one lead from start to finish in 2 weeks and watch what happens. But this will explode your firm faster than any way you've probably tried before and 10x your sales with the #1 accountant sales app right now on the market. So head on over to theabundantaccountant.com/app and give it a try for 2 weeks before you buy and see how you like it. Now let's welcome Debra to the show. Welcome to the show, Debra.
Hey, Michelle, good to be with you.
Oh, it's great to have you here again on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. And I know we have a few great topics, but on today's show, we brought Debra here just because the last conversation was so awesome. And by the way, you have a great voice, so it's perfect for podcasting too. And I think we have a lot of similar stories. But before we dive into our episode today about finding more clients, the right quality clients, how to identify who to look for before you go searching for them, and then sharing our personal stories. Can you share with everyone who's listening just 30 seconds to 60 seconds about you?
Yeah, so I think from the accounting bookkeeping standpoint, I'm actually a profit first professional. So I've been with them for about 5 years now, and I work as a coach in that capacity. So I've been doing that for a number of years now. And so I love hanging out with this crowd because we partner so much on cases. And that's where I just see the immense value that you bring to the table. And so that's where I think I come into the mix today.
Yes, definitely. And I think you also come in the mix, Debra, because you do have also background in sales. And on the Abundant Accountant Podcast, we're all about helping you not only improve your profitability, but you can't even have profit if you don't have top line revenue. And top line revenue is all about your sales. So that's what we talk about here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. So today we're going to talk just about that. How do you find more of those ideal clients? How do you get the right type of clients in your sphere so you don't have to think, oh, I just got another PITA client. Oh, this person didn't get me their documents. Oh, this person says they can't afford me. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm very excited that you're here again. So thank you for being here with us.
Yay. Thanks for having me back again.
Of course. Anytime. You have an open door policy here. Okay.
I love it. I'll be coming and knocking.
Okay, great. Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And, today Debra and I are going to share our personal stories. I grew theabundantaccountant.com and this whole coaching business for all of you from zero, pretty much from scratch. And I think every single person here is starting out from zero. If you're in a corporate job and you're thinking about starting your own firm, or you're trying to go out on your own, or you're trying to divorce a business partner and go out on your own, it's terrifying. It's scary. And, how do you do that with no one in sight on how you're going to generate that revenue? So I know, Debra, you have a great story that you want to share when you first got started, because I think you started from ground zero too, right? You didn't get like 10 clients delivered in your lap, did you?
Oh gosh, no, I wasn't one of those blessed people. No, it's a lot of hard work pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. And I think, Michelle, you said it so well, is that I came out of a corporate job. And when I decided to leave my job, it was because I became a mom. And, working the corporate hours on Wall Street, I used to be a trader on Wall Street. And going back to that, it just wasn't a possibility. So it was like taking the leap. And I equate it to jumping off the Grand Canyon without a parachute. From leaving corporate and then starting my own business. And that's the thing, you've got to hustle and you have to bring in money, because I'm not, especially where I am, I'm in the outskirts of New York City, and in that area, you do have a dual income household. It doesn't really work so much when there's just one person pulling in the money, right? So I knew I had to start bringing in some money. And so I have to tell you, this is probably going back about 10 years ago, and social media was all the rage, right? Everybody was doing Facebook and talking about advertising and even Google ads. Yep. And I know, just like a lot of your audience, I always had an aversion to social media. And because I didn't grow up in that era where I really got it or understood it. But here's what I knew I could do. And so this is how I got my first 10 clients. I went ahead and took advantage of, first I started networking. So networking is always great, but I kind of took it to the next level, is that if you can give a small talk, like 30 to 40 minutes on a topic that would be interesting. And what's so great about this industry, being accountants and bookkeepers, is that there are so many interesting things that you can bring to the table and talk about that business owners are interested in. So I went ahead and I utilized my local chamber of commerce. And I got to tell you, it's just low hanging fruit. So I went to my local one, and then I went to other ones. I put together a brief talk. And in my case, it was on finances, and this was pre-profit first, but it was along the same lines. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, my call to action or my offer would be like, hey, and if this speaks to you and that you want a deeper dive, I'm happy to offer a 30-minute free call. And in order to get that, you just sign up here on my little sheet. And I was doing this in person. But what's so great about this concept is that you can do it in person, but even though we're kind of coming out of the tail end of COVID, no matter what happens, you can always give an online talk. Somebody invites you, you give that talk, make your offer, and then you could do it in person as well. We're starting to get back in person again. But I have to tell you, that's the way I got my first 10 paying clients. The other thing it did is it sharpened my chops when it came to doing a lot of sales conversations. So practicing selling my own offering, because even though I came out of Wall Street and sales trading, I had some sales background, but I had to get used to selling myself, which was a whole other ball game.
Yeah, I think that's a whole nother episode, because everyone's probably like, yeah, Michelle, that's the part that's hard. It's selling myself. And yeah, Debra, I have an aversion to social media. I hate it. I don't have time to post. I've got stacks of paperwork in front of me. that I have to get this work out the door. I have to actually do the work. How am I supposed to get new clients? You guys are crazy.
I know, right? But I have to tell you, to me, it was so you have the one-on-one model or the one-to-many model, and that's the model I decided to take on. So when you decided you would talk to a group, you make a simple call to action. It's like an hour of your time, right? So you're reaching a lot of people, short period of time, and so I got to tell you, the topics and just the interaction with the people and answering questions, and you can really have fun with it. It's not that drudgery of that, oh, this social media, I don't know what to post, how to post, when to post, and do all this stuff. You just show up. You have a wonderful topic. You interact with people. You answer their questions. You're there to be in service. And then you lend your hand out and say, hey, if you would like more, feel free to schedule some complimentary time with me. And here's how you do it. And I have to tell you, that is really how I catapulted my business early on to start driving some of that revenue.
Yeah. And I think it's funny that you say the number 10, because I'll share a story. When I started theabundantaccountant.com and I started my 8-week sales mastery training, and I said, I can teach this. I can help everyone improve revenue, double sales. I know it's possible. I actually took 10 CPAs, EAs, bookkeepers, profit first professionals. This is a combination of everybody in a beta. And I said, okay, if I can prove it with these 10 and get stories and testimonial, then it will grow. And then I've helped over, 100 in my small group classes now. So it is possible. And all I did was say, do you have it? I asked for referrals. So I had a handful of people. And then I said, do you have one person who would like to improve their sales conversations? Do you have one person, who would actually like to double revenue instead of have stagnant revenue from year to year? Or do you know anyone who thinks they are charging too cheap and keep discounting themselves, and they really want that confidence to charge their value and their worth finally and put the past in the past? And I got so many people. I got more than 10, but I said, I'm only going to do this for 10 people. And, I guess I had 1 hour talks. I was 1 to 10 people every single week for about a 10-week period to prove my point. And, as a total, they generated over 80,000 in revenue. And most of them who are still around today have doubled or tripled their revenue year over year. And I think, having a small talk online or doing it in person like you did at the local Chamber of Commerce, it's the best way to attract the exact right type of clients, because I have learned that people also pay with their time. So if someone's willing to give you an hour of their time, then that's probably one of the most important elements to look at as the type of clients that you want under your firm, in your firm, working with you. And I think that can also segue, Debra, into, before we can really do a talk, how do I identify the exact type of client that we want to work with? Especially if you don't have that ideal star, right? We don't have our starter player on our basketball team that we want to duplicate. What if we don't have anybody? What did you do?
So what I did was, in identifying my ideal client, I actually went back to what the industries that I knew and the types of people that I knew and the types of people I worked with well. So kind of going back to my own experience, is that coming off of Wall Street, it was half financial, half technology. And so what I realized is that I was used to working with people in technology as well as finance. So that really started to paint the picture, because I knew how these people operated. I knew how their thought processes, but I also knew what their internal processes were as well. So when I transitioned to my consulting practice, it was a really nice way to go ahead and look at a market that I actually was familiar with. I knew the ins and outs. I knew the problems. And so I just went with what I was familiar with, or what I like to call native knowledge. And that's where I started to mine some of my initial clients as well, in addition to really, doing the Chamber of Commerce's, but this really started to shape the ideal client for me, just because I already had some confidence in knowing those industries better than, maybe the construction industry, which I had no experience in,
Yeah.
or maybe, the lawn care industry, which, I had no familiarity with. So what I like to say is go with some native knowledge. If you, and there's another story of a colleague that she actually grew up, her father was a contractor. And so she grew up going around on all these jobs and everything else with her dad. And like Saturday mornings, this is what they did. They scoped out jobs. This is what she did on the weekend with her dad. She became an accountant. Who do you think her ideal client wound up being? It was the construction industry, because
she knew the ins and outs.
She knew the ins and outs. And so using that native knowledge, I like to say, you're just picking up breadcrumbs. You're looking at the breadcrumbs of your life and just picking them up. And where do you have experience? Where do you have rapport? Because first of all, that gives you a lot of confidence, number one. And then number two, it gives you insight into some of the problems you can anticipate that market has. And it just really lands nicely to know that you can solve those problems once you've identified that.
Yeah. And I think for every person listening, we have some breadcrumbs we can pick up from our past and our life. And I think for me, right out of college, I worked at Moss Adams in an accounting firm. And I saw all the CPAs and everyone just, complaining about sitting in a cubicle. And I'm sure you felt this way, Debra, in your corporate job, and being overworked and underpaid. And I think it really got inside of me because, fast forward 20, 25 years later, now that's all I work with are accountants. So I'm taking myself right back to where I ended my first and only real job I ever had after college at Moss Adams.
Yeah. And isn't it amazing how that works, right? It's like, wow, it's just kind of history repeating itself, but in a really good way.
It is. And so I guess maybe you could share a little bit more. You had the two industries that you were familiar with, finance and technology. So out of the first 10 clients that you had, how did you really, pinpoint, other than the Chamber of Commerce, pinpoint how you're going to attract more technology clients or, more finance clients? Where did you find them at? Were there any other little ideas up your sleeve for someone? I mean, I've definitely met people going to conferences. It's a little probably easier for me. Well, it's easy for everybody because if you're in construction, there's construction conferences you could go to. I go to QuickBooks Connect, or I go to ProfitCon, or I go to specific industry events. But for you, what did you do, since you are a profit first professional and you are doing this now with clients for finance and technology?
So what I actually did was, and at the time I didn't consider this social media. So my go-to was always LinkedIn,
Okay.
right? So because I wasn't actually posting on LinkedIn or doing videos or posting any content, but it was a tool I could use to actually find out where some of my old colleagues were that maybe left the company. It was a direct way to find where did they go? What are they up to now? And if I ping them on LinkedIn and be like, hey, what's up? It's been a long time. Like, let's catch up. And that's a very normal course of action for people who used to work together. So I actually utilized LinkedIn and just looked at old colleagues or even former colleagues just to have a chat with them, see what was going on in their industry, see if there was any opportunity. And a lot of these people left and started up their own companies, therefore profit first, and the financial coaching I was doing was going to be a fit. So it was about having those conversations and then finding out what they were up to. And if they weren't going to be a fit, then I would ask for introductions to other people that I found that they were connected to on LinkedIn. So I use LinkedIn as a tool to reach out to old people. That was number one. And then not old people in age, but old people that I actually worked with. That didn't sound good when it first came out.
It didn't, but former colleagues. We'll call them former.
Colleagues, yes. Former colleagues I worked with, that was step one. And then step two was really mining LinkedIn and saying, hey, listen, I see you're connected with this person who was another business owner. What do you know about them? How close are you? Oh, we went to college together. Or, oh, that's my wife's sister-in-law. Well, great. Could you give me an introduction? And it was so easy on LinkedIn for them to either make a phone call or even do an introduction over LinkedIn, or at least I had a name that I could drop in inviting somebody to have a conversation. So it does go back to a little bit of the sales techniques that I know that you teach, Michelle, and some of what I teach as well, is that you want to be making connections all the time and just trying to talk to as many people as you possibly can, sharing what's going on in your services, understanding what's going on with them, but then also asking for another introduction if they're not a fit, seeing and planning ahead of time what's going to be your ask. Can you introduce me to maybe the technology company that's working your technology? Maybe you can have a conversation with that CEO. So who are your vendors? Who are your colleagues? And then doing a little bit of investigation and making that ask.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, seeing and planning ahead, in my world, that's how you build your pipeline. That's how you'll have future referrals coming to you of the exact, what'd you call it, native knowledge type clients and prospects that you're looking to work with. And I guess my question to you, because for those who are not a social media fan, I agree, LinkedIn's not so social media, but you still have to spend time. How much time do you dedicate per day mining clients, connecting, and building those relationships right now on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I do it a little bit differently now because I actually have gotten into the posting and the videos and things like that on LinkedIn. But if I take it back, and this is when I was looking for my clients, I would actually, and I know you teach this as well, Michelle, it's all about time blocking. And the only way things get done is if you time block it. So I would have actually a particular day of the week that I would dedicate to marketing. So there were Tuesdays. That's the days I would reserve for going out on LinkedIn all day long. Now, I know that may be aggressive for some people, but
a little bit.
Back it up,
yeah,
exactly.
Bit.
But what if we can dial it back, right? So I time blocked that day. And so what your listeners can do is just take one small step, time block at least 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever it is, pick 3 days and just put a half an hour on the calendar just to get started, because you don't want to be like eating an elephant, right? It's too big, right? You don't want to go to that blocking off the whole day. But once again, I didn't have clients at the time, so I had the time to do it. But if you're servicing clients and you're doing things, but you just want to make sure that you're out there and you're prospecting, just a half an hour a day, or if you're doing it 3 days a week, think about it this way. There's 5 days in the business week. 3 of the days is the majority of the time that you would be spending, right? 3 versus 2 days. So 3 days a week, half an hour, at least get started there. And then you can start dedicating more time to it. But that just pays a lot of dividends just to get started.
Yeah. And if they do half an hour a day, so pretend you're going back in time. So you time block 30 minutes. Let's say we're going Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What would you do to maximize your efforts with the smallest amount of input on this? Obviously we're doing 30 minutes of time, but how would you connect with that ideal person that you want to target? So let's say for your example, you had 2 sort of niches, finance and you had your technology. Besides going back to old colleagues that you worked with in corporate, what other ways would you recommend investing that 30 minutes to get the maximum output?
You're saying within LinkedIn, how would I approach it? Okay, That is a great question. So what's great about LinkedIn is the search capability. So all you have to do is simply go, and you don't have to, the next question I get is, do you have to have the paid version? And it's no, you don't have to pay anything. If you're on LinkedIn, anybody can do this. If you go up to the search and you type in the title plus the industry, it will go ahead. LinkedIn will bring to you the list of people that you're either connected with or that are second level connections, meaning that you have a connection in between with them. Mm-hmm. And so LinkedIn is one of those things where it's kind of like the magic, like a little magic 8-ball, right? Ask it a question and it'll give you an answer. But wow, this is like a supercharge and it's going to give you a ton of results. So that's what I would do and just sift through. They're like, oh, I know this person. Let me do a little outreach. Or, wow, they're friends with this person. It just starts giving you and building that momentum to just keep reaching out to people. And I would have a goal for myself. In a half an hour, you can reach out to 20, 25 people at the very, very least. So you have to figure if you're reaching out to 25 people 3 days a week for a half an hour, That's 75 people a week. I mean, those numbers start adding up, right? 75 times 4 weeks in the month. I can't do math in my head. I have to have a calculator. So, but do you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. So, what would you say in your connection message? Because here on the Abundant Accountant podcast, I like to make it simple, right? So, we're giving you simple steps and things you can take action on right now. And we'll even write your message for you right now. So, I'll share what I think you should say, and then you're going to get a version from Debra right now. So, what would you put in the message that you would send to somebody? Because they get inundated with messages, right? I mean, I get so many messages on LinkedIn every day. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So here's what I tend to do. First of all, if I know them, it's like, hey, it's been so long, we should catch up. Let me know when you have 30 minutes this week to put on the calendar. Like it's a real quick, hey, great to see you here. Hope the family's well. Like something personal. It's been ages. Let's connect. Don't leave it just there. Make it specific. Let's connect for 30 minutes, right? Or 15 minutes this week or next week. Like make it very specific so they can get back to it with like, yes, it's been ages. Yeah. How about Thursday at 1:30? Awesome. I'll call you then. So having a specific call to action and not leaving it open-ended, I try to get very, very specific on that. So that's really step one. If it's for people I don't know, the first step is actually making a connection request. And so when I connect, the message I put in is like, hey, I see we're both connected to, and I always try to drop a name or something that's going to be familiar to that person so that I can connect with them and then start messaging them. So that's the first part of it. And then the second part of it is that I tell them that I tend to share helpful content with people in my community. What topics are of interest to you when it comes to a profitable business? So I get very, very specific with the messaging, and I kind of use it as a polling place so I can say, hey, well, what's going to be interesting to you? And then I start the conversation that way. What is it that you do, Michelle?
I haven't done the LinkedIn thing in a very long time. So I'm going to admit that now. But you're kind of inspiring me to do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing, 30 minutes. So I think with all the listeners, you might see me more on LinkedIn because of this conversation. But in the last, what was it? January 2020, I took an in-person course with the Black Swan Group with Chris Voss and his son, Brandon Voss. And I'm telling you, some of the content in the blogs that he has too are phenomenal. And I think when you're cold reaching out or just coming out of left field on LinkedIn with an old colleague or a connection. You had like a first degree. I think it's called first degree connection. I don't know what it's called on LinkedIn. But I think starting out, what Chris calls them are accusation audits. So you can put the other person basically at ease, acknowledging that they're busy. So you could say, you know what? I know you're busy. I imagine you probably don't have time to read your 100 LinkedIn messages that are just sitting in your inbox. But here I am, but you could say something along those lines. And then the call to action, you could say, would it be impossible for us to spend 20 minutes on the phone or Zoom to catch up? Or, would it be impossible for us to spend 20 minutes on the phone or Zoom to, like you said, share some helpful content, but don't put that words. But it just really depends on what your service is. So if it's tax planning, maybe let's say you're still in 2021, how you can keep more money in your pockets before the end of this year so you don't have to write big checks to the IRS in 2022. It's something like that could be the call to action. But I think diffusing their annoyingness with all the messages on LinkedIn is probably a good idea. So that's what I think I'm going to say.
Yeah. And I think that's great. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that, especially, listen, if there's anybody out there doing tax planning, I hear this all day long. Like, I made so much money last year and then I want to pay all these taxes. So yeah, a lot of people are feeling the pain. And it's as simple as that. So if you're listening to this, just replay it and do exactly what Michelle told you to do.
Yeah. Or combine what I shared plus what Debra shared and just put together a template, because I'm going to guess, Debra, I'm misefficient. So I'm going to copy and paste. I'll have a few different various canned messages, and then I'll customize them as I'm inside LinkedIn to personalize it. But the bulk of it, I'll already have written. It's already done, so I don't have to like reinvent the wheel every single time.
I love cut and paste. And that is such a great tip to just have it ready. And listen, there's nothing wrong in being direct to be like, hey, listen, did you come out of last tax year making a bunch of money and then it had to all go to the IRS? With regard to the tax planning, like there's definitely strategies that people aren't talking about. And if that's something of interest to you, here, I'm happy to spend 20 minutes with you. Here's my link. Like,
exactly.
You could just keep doing that. And it doesn't matter. People will either say, no, thanks, thank you. And you will get consultations that way. And it's not difficult. You just have to do it.
I know. The doing it part's the hard part for myself and everyone listening, because we want to get the actual work done, right? We have the compliance work. We have the bookkeeping. We have the profit first coaching meetings. We have the actual work stuff. But what we're talking about, again, is how are you going to get more clients in your sphere, the right ones, the quality ones that will pay you top dollar for doing the work. So then you don't have to work with as many people and feel like you're bogged down, suffocating in a bottle about to get drowning, like that drowning feeling, like you're in the water, you can't even get your head above water and catch a breath. So, Debra, is there anything else that you want to share as far as, finding these clients, coming up with unique ways, the Chamber of Commerce we talked about LinkedIn, finding more of these clients and identifying those characteristics of the ideal client. So when you're on LinkedIn, you know that you're reaching out to sort of the right person and you're not wasting your time.
Yeah, I think, Michelle, because this community is so big on referrals, maybe we should talk about that for a moment.
Okay.
And getting those referral relationships are great. So it is a double-edged sword. If you haven't gotten your first couple of clients, teaming up with a CPA or somebody else that does similar services but not the same services is a great way to get people coming your way with word of mouth, right? Word of mouth carries a lot of weight. But here's the one thing that tends to happen is sometimes your referral source will start sending referrals to you, but they're not great people, right? They're not your ideal clients. And so a lot of times at first blush, it's a matter of saying, oh, I just want to drop that referral source. But honestly, the one tip, and somebody told me this ages ago, and wow, does it work wonders, is that what you can do is if you go back to your referral source and just tell them what type of client you're looking for, wow, that changes the game and the referrals that you get. So for example, instead of them sending you general referrals, you want to be more specific and have that conversation, be like, hey, listen, John, thank you so much for the referrals. Let me go ahead and share with you what an ideal client is that gets the best results when I work with them. And then you can list out the parameters, whether it's size of company, number of employees, the types of problems that they have, or whatever it is. But the more specific you can get, share that with your referral sources, and wow, watch that flip and better people coming your way, which equates to your ideal clients.
Yeah. And this is very funny story, so timely, because one of my students, we'll just call her Bobby Joe. Bobby Joe was getting a ton of referrals from, two people, and she specializes in international tax. Very high level international tax, like saving companies with U.S. entities, $50,000 for not making the paperwork mistakes, massive opportunities. And she kept getting the wrong referrals. And I said this exact same thing. You have to go back to her and give her literally basically your elevator pitch, but in bullet point format, because the people referring people to you, we need it simple. Like, I work with accountants typically who have been in business at least 2 years, who have had sales conversations and keep stumbling, have no follow-up process, have accounts receivable out the wazoo, and don't believe that they can actually collect that money back and never have AR again. Like literally just bullet point it out. And that's what I recommended to, what I call her, Bobby Joe. And she's starting to get the exact types of clients she wants because the person had no idea, and it has to be, hey, that the business in the US is doing at least $500,000 in revenue. They they have maybe export, import situation challenges. So listing it out, but also I think what you said beautifully is listing out the challenges that typically your ideal clients have, because they'll be able to remember those, because the people that come to your referral sources are typically bitching about the problems that they have. And that's what they're going to remember. They're not going to remember, oh, well, maybe they'll remember sales. Maybe they'll remember how many employees they have. But what I promise you they will remember are the challenges that those people are having.
1,000%. Yeah, because that's where the pain point is. And so it's easier to remember the challenges. Absolutely.
Well, that was lovely, Debra. Thank you so much for being here with us again today on the Abundant Accountant podcast. It's always fun and an honor to have you. Is there anything else that we left out, or any last words or tips that you came up with? Because you have some really good ones.
I think we pretty much covered most of them. I think the one last thing that we could probably point out, and I know you teach this as well, Michelle, is that I think it's the concept of like attracts like. So if you look at your own core values and you really just put those out there in and identifying that for yourself, you can start attracting the same type of people who hold the same values. And that's just another way to start weeding out people who are going to be a really good fit for you to work with. And so when it comes to the core values, and I know Mike McCallus talks about this, he calls them the immutable laws of your life and your business. And it's just another way to be able to attract those people that you want to be working with just 7 days a week, 365. So
yeah, and it's so true. Like on my coaching calls and in my classes, I could literally do that probably 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and be completely content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hanging around the people that you love.
Yeah, and doing this work and spending the time on LinkedIn and investing the hour and a half a week to connect with 75 potential great non-PITA clients sounds like a good ROI. So follow the steps of what you heard today. I hope you had a pen and paper. If not, hit rewind and listen again. And thank you again, Debra, for being here. As always, it's an honor to have you.
Thanks so much, Michelle.
What an amazing episode with Debra. And I really want to just focus a little bit more on what to tell your referral partners, because I know each of us relies so much on referrals, but it's our job to make sure we tell the people exactly who we're looking for. And when I was talking about pain points, I want to give you some tangible examples if you would like to write them down with your pen and paper. So, for example, if you're an accountant, a CPA, EA, and you're working in tax planning, you could create a bullet point list of some ideas, something like this, that you want to help people stop feeling overwhelmed and powerless about throwing their money away in the trash by paying too much in taxes. Because that would trigger something for your person who's sending you referrals. They would be like, oh, yeah, I heard Susie complain about that a week ago. Another thing that you could put on there would be, I help clients remove high interest debt, and they don't believe that they can actually go on a long overdue vacation from just the debt and high interest that they've been paying. That if you eliminate that, it could actually pay for your vacation. That would be a good one. And what about also reduce their tax bill so they don't feel clueless anymore on how to take advantage of the IRS code to benefit their business or benefit their retirement? That could be another bullet point. Or what about, I help people figure out how to use the money in their business to not only make more money so they can buy a house, save for retirement, retire early, and actually plan a trip and travel every single year without bringing your laptop on the trip. That might be something helpful to share with a referring partner. A couple of other examples is that you help abolish the overwhelming feelings that the U.S. tax system has on taxpayers. That could be a good one. Or what about eliminate the struggle about the tax structure? Or you could even say eliminate the complexity and the struggle about their tax structure. And one last idea before I say goodbye today, you could say that you help simplify tax issues that find themselves eating at family businesses in the U.S., or you simplify tax issues and strategies that find themselves eating at them who have a business in the US or maybe even on the international side. So those are some examples of the pain points that you would want to put in your bullet point email to the person who's sending you referrals. So I just wanted to share that with you. And again, if you're looking for a done-for-you CRM sales management tool that has nothing to do with the tax software or your internal softwares, this would be the front-end process that's already done for you, where you want to create the know, like, and trust factor and establish real relationships a lot faster to convert them to high-paying clients, then this app is for you. Also, if you want to improve your value and confidence, having this done-for-you bulletproof system that's built because I wrote everything in it, then this app is for you. And you can actually start your 14-day trial at theabundantaccountant.com/app. But this will really have you stop wasting hours in your day so you can actually feel accomplished having a firm full of loyal, high-paying clients who appreciate you, and having a double bulletproof follow-up sequence in place. So you don't even need to write the emails. You can just send what I've programmed in, and there will be an email that goes out to your future clients once a month for 24 months, if that's what you choose. So once again, check it out over at theabundantaccountant.com/app. You get to try it for 2 weeks. There's no contracts to sign. You can cancel it at any time if you change your mind. But I'm pretty sure that this will bring you at least 1 or 2 clients that you've never had before. So it should pay for itself. Check it out, theabundantaccountant.com/app, and I'll see you all in the next episode.